All right. We're officially live, helping people quit weed on a Sunday night. So, what we'll do is we'll wait and see for people to tune in, and then I will answer questions as they come in through the chat. So, if you're watching a replay of this, you're probably going to want to fast forward to like, I don't know, the 5 minute mark, the 10-minute mark, something like that, because it usually takes a little bit for people to stroll in. This is my first time actually going live through YouTube versus through StreamYard. What's up? What's going on? Was it Dion? Good to have you here, Dion Sardines. Not much. If you got questions for me about quitting cannabis or quitting substances, I'm happy to answer them. That's kind of what we're doing tonight. So, all right, all right. Anytime, anytime. I don't know. Thanks for being here in the live. You guys, now is the time to ask me questions. So, think about if you have questions, if you have something that you're struggling with when it comes to quitting cannabis products or other things like that. Now is the time to ask. Hopefully, my audio is okay. I haven't streamed directly through YouTube before, so this is a little different. Sober since March 11th. Thanks for your help. Look at that. What are we now? March, April, May. You're coming up on 90 days. You're crushing it. How are you holding up since March 11th? All right, let's see here. You helped me finally kick nicotine and cannabis. That's fantastic. That is awesome. I'd like to ask you, what was it that I did that clicked for you when it came to quitting nicotine and cannabis? Was it just the seeing the videos over and over again, or was there something specific that I said or did that helped you out? I would love to know. Yesterday, no weed. Today, I bought a joint. Okay, let's talk about that crypto. So, a lot of times when people are quitting a substance, that look, just one more joint, one more time, one more is a common problem. And what I find when I'm working with people is there's no sense of urgency. And I think what that really boils down to is we take the fact that we have more time for granted. So I'm going to wait until after this wedding. I'm going to wait until after the new year. I'm going to wait until tomorrow. And what I would tell you is tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And you have one life, and it's up to you to decide how you want to live that life. And knowing that tomorrow isn't guaranteed might create some urgency, and that might create some sense of self accountability, right? Unless I'm under the gun for something, I tend not to do that something. And for me, I wasn't really under the gun when it came to sobriety and making a change. So I had to create almost a sense of pressure on myself to make a change. And hopefully, that's a technique that you can apply in your quitting journey, and hopefully that limits the just one more today, one more tomorrow. Yeah. I told my parents, King's World, I'm a weed addict. It was relieving, and they're helping me quit gradually. Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. So getting support is what most people want, and it's what most people need when they're quitting substances. When people ask me like, how do you quit? What do you do? Getting support is honestly the biggest thing. And if you're fortunate enough to get that from family or friends or another source, I would always encourage that. The other thing I would encourage you, King's World, is I would tell you that you're not an addict. And the idea that anyone is an addict is absurd because we're all addicted to something, right? Like arguably addicted to YouTube and making content. People are addicted to food. We're addicted to our phones. Everyone's an addict. Everyone runs on dopamine. Okay. Um, I would tell you you're so much more than just an addict. And I want you to start to think of yourself as so much more than an addict, because if you identify as an addict, you're always going to have a reason to go back to using the substance. So I want you to maybe shout out in the comments or identify some other things that you are, because I can tell you one thing: you're not an addict, and if you're an addict, so is everyone else. Okay. Um, that's what I would tell you there. I've been smoking cigarettes since 16, and now I use nicotine pouches. I wish I never used nicotine to begin with, ready to combust. So here's my thing on that. A lot of people ask me about nicotine pouches. Look, like I would just say kudos so far, because nicotine pouches are going to be a form of significant harm reduction compared to cigarettes. So really, what you're doing is you're tapering, right? You're tapering from cigarettes to pouches, and then eventually you may decide to quit the pouches altogether. And before you come in here disappointed, maybe it sounds like you're a little disappointed in yourself from going, from one form of nicotine to another. I want you to think about what was the reason that you wanted to quit cigarettes initially. A lot of times when people are quitting cigarettes, it has to do with physical health. and you're reducing your harm by 99% switching to a pouch or a patch or a gum or something like that. Yeah, we're still struggling with addiction. Yeah, we're still dealing with that stuff, but the reality is like maybe you're well on your way to accomplishing your goal of quitting cigarettes and you don't even realize that, or maybe you didn't acknowledge it. So I would just start by saying like kudos to you. It sounds like you're trending in the right direction. 50 year no weed, this channel helped a lot. Look at that, Mike. Awesome. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, it's really trying to get rid of the symptoms. I get frustrated and very angry. Yeah, so this is super common in early sobriety, right? Frustration, anger, irritability. And maybe in some cases that's warranted, right? When I first got sober, there was a lot of scenarios in my life where I was being taken advantage of, right? When I was on substances, I was in a vulnerable state constantly. And I also happen to be a very empathetic person, and a lot of people took advantage of that. So some of the things that I was angry about when I first got sober, it was a very warranted form of anger. Other things was just irrational anger. But what I did was I took that anger, I took that frustration, and I used it as fuel to create significant change in my life. Right. I was upset about my work situation. I was upset about my finances. I was angry about my relationships. And I used that anger and that frustration as a source of energy. I think so many times when we talk about being frustrated and angry, we talk about it like, oh, you shouldn't be angry, you shouldn't be frustrated, you shouldn't be irritable. These are irrational symptoms to have, and they're not. They're very real human emotions that everyone experiences. So I think we get tied up in I'm quitting drugs, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm irritable. So are a lot of people who don't use drugs, and sometimes those emotions are warranted, and sometimes we need to use the energy that comes with anger and irritability and channel it to driving significant change in our lives. At least that's what worked for me. I'm doing fine because I decided I had enough. Enough is enough. That's absolutely right. 90 days sober from weed with your help in changing your mindset. That's where it's all about. It's all in the mindset. That's absolutely right. Okay, let's see here. I'm really trying. Okay. You said something about decisions today affect how I live my life tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. That's a huge thing. Like, I thank you for the donation, guys. That's super kind. You don't have to do that, but it's always seriously appreciated. Um, okay, so yeah, I didn't understand this until I was older. But like, let's say you're 20 years old. The decisions you make in your 20s are going to impact how you live in your 30s. The decisions you make in your 30s are going to impact how you live in your 40s, 40s, 50s, 50s, 60s. So a lot of times I would think just in the moment, not understanding that that moment was going to dictate how I lived my future. A lot of people don't think about this, but this is true of life, right? Like the foods you eat today, how you take care of yourself today is going to impact how you live tomorrow. And a lot of people don't focus on the long game, they focus on the short game. And in turn, they don't wind up exercising delayed gratification, and they wind up screwing themselves in the long run. That was a major mistake that I made throughout not only active substance use, but also in early quitting those substances in early sobriety. So I'm glad that that resonated with you. That's awesome. Um, I helped you by giving you an understanding and realizing it was my choice to smoke weed again or not to. That's absolutely right. There's no such thing as relapse. Um, Most people that I talk to, most people I've worked with, you're much smarter than that. You're not some irrational, mindless human being that just suddenly combusts and uses drugs on a whim. Many times when I talk to people, their decision, their choice to going back to using a substance, it has been very rationalized in their mind. And it actually makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases when you speak to people. But if we can remove this idea of you just being some mindless addict that has no capability of decision making, it makes the quitting process a thousand times easier because it puts you in control of your decisions, not some lifeless substance. And I'm very, very firm on that. So I'm awesome that that resonated with you. That was a big thing for me too in quitting. Um, I want to quit smoking weed so badly, but I find it so hard to stop. Anything that's worth doing is hard. This is reality. Getting in good shape is worth doing. It's hard. Making money is worth doing. It's hard. Having a beautiful relationship with a person is a great thing, but it's hard. It takes commitment. It takes hard work. Anything in life worth doing is hard, and it's in hard things that you develop the most meaningful traits. Right? If I go through something easy, the chances of me taking something away from that experience that's actually valuable is slim to none. But if I choose to go through something hard, the chances of me developing some type of character trait, whether that's grit, discipline, tenacity, delayed gratification, are very, very likely. So I would encourage you to do hard things. And if doing hard things scares you, then sobriety might be your perfect opportunity to do just that. And I'm not saying this is some like motivational bullshit. This is reality. Nothing in life that's easy is worth doing. I just had my first child. He's 2 years old now, and although it's been an amazing blessing, it hasn't been easy, right? And like, but but it was worth it. It was 1,000% worth it. So that's what I would tell you. Um, yeah, guys, I try and give you a ton of perspectives and different resources. I'm glad that you guys appreciate that. That's awesome. Um, oh, thank you, Sim Famous. You're the one who gave the donation. Yeah, I'm anytime. That's what I do for people. I just try and give direction and guidance. That's really it. People see me and I think sometimes even in our coaching programs, they think I'm going to come on and tell a person what to do. You shouldn't smoke. You should do this. You shouldn't do that. The reality is you're eventually going to quit on your own or you're not. All I can do is guide you to that outcome faster, whatever that outcome is. Just because of my experience in working with people and going through it myself. That's all I try to do. I just try and give some guidance and direction. That's awesome. Um, you said so I don't know, said you've been so consistent on YouTube. That consistency came from my consistency in sobriety. I was not always a consistent individual. In fact, I was very inconsistent in many aspects of my life, not all, but many. And it was through sobriety that I developed the practice of consistency. And I've now applied that to my YouTube channel, which is a business. And I've just applied that to my relationships. I've applied that more recently to my physical fitness. Right. Again, this goes back to a lot of what I say. There's an incredible mindset that you can develop in sobriety. There's an incredible mindset that you can develop in active addiction. It's just how you funnel that mindset and what you choose to put it towards is either going to make or break you. And I was sick of breaking myself. I wanted to make myself into something. And my best vehicle for doing so was sobriety. It was an opportunity that was right at my fingertips. And that's what I chose to do. So that's where that consistency comes from. I wasn't always that way. Um, thank you guys for the hearts and the thumbs up. That's awesome. I've been feeling nauseous after quitting smoking or vaping or doing gummies. Yeah, I mean that's common. Oh, you've been feeling nauseous after smoking, vaping, and doing gummies and cannabis. Yeah, so that nausea could be stage one of cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Look, it's your body's way of telling you enough is enough, right? And you're either going to acknowledge what your body's trying to tell you, or you're going to push through that, and you may experience the consequences of not heeding the warning, right? That nausea is I would say very comparable to putting your hand on a hot stove. And I would say if you're smart about it, you're going to move your hand. If you want to tempt it, then you're going to keep your hand on that hot stove. But I would warn you, you might get burned. So that would be my 2 cents on that. And I know it's tough. I know it's hard to go through, but like you gotta do it, right? You gotta do it. If you wanna quit, this is a perfect opportunity to. Your body's saying, "Hey, I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to show you that this isn't working anymore. Now give me what I need," right? Um, okay. I'm in withdrawals and I'm depressed as hell. So, are you implying that you were happy during substance use? That would be my immediate question when someone tells me they're depressed in withdrawals. Because to me, a comment like that would imply that you were happy while using substances. Now, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, then I have to define what is happy for you. And once I get that definition of what is happy for you, I have to figure out, was substance use actually providing you happiness, or was it providing you some false sense of happiness? And then I could go even further down that conversation. I don't know how old you are, I don't know where you're at in life, but also I think the pursuit of happiness is a major reason for substance use. Happiness comes and goes in waves. It's not a consistent thing. And I used drugs a lot throughout my life because I wanted to be happy, right? My parents went through a horrible divorce. I had a series of horrible relationships. I made a series of horrible business decisions, and I wanted happiness. And I thought drugs was a modality to achieve it. And what I realized was I shouldn't have had been focusing on happiness. I should have been focusing on creating a life that I wanted to live. And if I had focused on that, eventually happiness would have followed. I now have many more happy days than I do sad days, but I certainly still have sad days. Um, I went through a very, very rough year. We had lots of things happen to my family, lots of health crises, lots of sad moments. And I tell people I'm still arguably happier than I was when I was using substances, not because I didn't experience sadness, but because I now have the capacity to manage the sadness. And I'm happy that I have that. So, happiness to me isn't being in an eternal state of happiness. It's having the tools and the resources and the mental capacity to weather the sadness, to weather the storm. That's what makes me happy as an individual, not so much an experience. So maybe that will give you something to think about. Okay. Um, uh, I've been smoking for 25 years. All of a sudden, it makes me feel very sick. Why is that? It could be cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. I'm going to be honest with you. It's happening to a lot of people with the higher concentration THC. It's happening to a lot of people with all the pesticides and things that they're putting in these substances nowadays. And that's why. Again, I would tell you it's just like I told the other individual. This is your body's way of warning you. It's like touching a hot stove. Either you're going to heed that warning or you're not. I've taken control of my weed addiction and I've been sober for a month, all thanks to your videos. Anytime, shout out, love from the United States, right back at you in India. That's amazing. Would I recommend someone goes to rehab to quit substances? No, I wouldn't. I would, in some cases, recommend a detox if you need medical detox because the withdrawals and the physical dependence is that intense. But no, I wouldn't recommend rehab. Rehab has incredibly high failure rate. Not only does it have a high failure rate, but in a residential rehab, you're not quitting in your real environment. A lot of people go to residential rehab and they're in this artificial environment, right? You have 24/7 therapy, you have all these activities, you have all this stuff. And then what happens is they get out of rehab and they come back to reality and they didn't learn how to use the tools that they developed in rehab in their reality, and then this leads to the choice of going back to consume the substance. In rehab, they'll tell you it leads to a relapse, and in rehab, they'll tell you relapse is part of the process. It creates reoccurring revenue for the rehab. Rehabs are highly controversial. Now, I would never discourage someone from getting help. I would never discourage someone from going through a medical detox if they need that. And there may be a rare situation where I recommend rehab, and that's if the person needs to be removed from their current environment. But then again, we can often accomplish that by going on a vacation or just taking some time away from your current environment, putting yourself in like a a secluded campsite or something. So, yeah, that could save you a lot of money and a lot of time. If you're going to spend money on rehab, I'd much rather see you spend money with our one-on-one addiction exit protocol, and I'd much rather help you quit in real time with 24/7 support from myself. So before you do that, check out our one-on-one protocol. Okay. um all right, let's see here. Would you approve of sparingly using kratom for the first couple of weeks to combat THC withdrawal symptoms? So so I don't think I would. I don't think I would encourage that. But I'm also not completely opposed to it, right? Just because someone was addicted to cannabis doesn't necessarily imply they're going to get addicted to kratom. But if you do get addicted to kratom, I think the or if you get physically dependent on it, I think kratom is a lot more difficult of a withdrawal process to go through than cannabis. And do I think it's necessary? Here's the problem, Dave. My concern with that comment isn't so much kratom or any drug that you want to use to try and manage THC withdrawal. It's that you're focused on the wrong thing, right? It's in a case like that. Now, what you're doing is you're putting all your faith in kratom to get you through the withdrawals, when the most important thing is your mindset. And what happens is people put all their faith into, let's say in this case, kratom, and then this is the setup for physical dependence to another drug, kratom in your case, because you put so much faith in that. And maybe kratom helps you. And now we wind up into this mentality of, I quit because of kratom. And now we start to think, what's going to happen if I come off kratom? Am I just going to go back to THC? And it just leads you down a rabbit hole. So I would much rather, and I say this as a person who sells supplements to help people quit. Like literally, I sell our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum to help people quit. So, am I a fan of supplementation? Yes. Would I start with kratom? No. And that would be my other thing too. Like, why are we jumping to such an extreme? There's not really such a thing as an extreme substance, but why are we jumping all the way to kratom? Why don't we start with something simpler like ashwagandha or N-acetylcysteine or creatine monohydrate if we want to, if we're managing that? And also, I'd be concerned that you jumped over the lifestyle modification as well. And so I'd have a lot of concerns about that comment that are far beyond just using kratom. 8 months sober, nicotine, but I still have cravings. When do they get out of my life? I don't have a solid. For most people, within a year, they're going to be gone. For a lot of people, within 90 days, they start to die down. I'd have to start by asking you: are the cravings less than they were on day one or day three? Because that means you're making progress. And a lot of people forget that. They think like, "Oh, I still have cravings. I'm screwed." But then when I have a conversation with them, they're like, "Yeah, I still have cravings, but I'm much better off than I was on day three." And I'm like, "Okay, so you're making progress, right?" Progress. Sometimes I think people lose sight of it. Because those cravings can be overwhelming, but I have a feeling you're making more progress than you realize despite still having cravings. But I think within a year you'll be all right. Um, also, I would encourage you to refocus on the things that you actually crave in life. And what have you been doing to satisfy those cravings? For me, I found the more I satisfied the things in life that I actually craved, the cravings for nicotine and cannabis, pornography, and other substances started to die down. So if you're focused on the cravings for drugs, you're going to continue to crave drugs. If you can get your mindset in a different space, if you can create a different headspace for yourself and get focused on the things in life that actually matter to you, those cravings are going to die down. Okay. Um, I quit tonight at 9 p.m. I want to get through the 48 hours. My goal is a week to a month. I love it. That's where it starts. Hey, you know what? I'm dropping a video soon called the 1% method of quitting cannabis. And what I talk about is it, it's, it starts on day one, right? It starts at doing 1% better than you did yesterday. You can't make $1 million until you make $1. You can't get in great physical shape without going to the gym once. You can't build a beautiful relationship without going on that first date. So I love it. RJ03. That's a great goal. That's a great goal. Um, Using caused me more grief than it was covering up. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times, what I find happening, I don't know, for a lot of people, that's your username, I don't know, is they're yes, it drug addiction will create more grief than it's covering up. But for some people, the grief caused by drug addiction is more manageable. It's a distraction for them from the grief that they're actually facing in their life. Maybe it's a broken marriage, maybe it's financial problems, maybe it's some other major thing that they're going through that they've been pushing off to the back of their mind. And what happens is people become more comfortable managing the grief that comes with substance use than they do addressing the other grief in their life. But sadly, all this is doing is creating another set of problems for them. And then one day, when they build a tolerance to the drug, when the drug is no longer effective, when the reward is no longer there in consuming that drug, then they're left with the grief that they used to deal with. And now they're left with all the grief of substance use. So good call on quitting based on that. Good call. And a lot of people, it's funny, we get tied up in substance use as a coping mechanism, which it's not, or as something to help us manage grief, which it doesn't. And what winds up happening is we actually reduce our capacity for being able to handle those other challenging things that we face in life. So it's interesting. I use patches to quit vaping. Fantastic. Quitting vaping for me is hell for 4 days and then gets easier every day. And by 2 months, I rarely think about it. Fantastic. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. Right now, we don't have international shipping on our supplements. We've been working on it for a while now, but just keep an eye. That's all I can say right now. I apologize. Just keep an eye. In the meantime, if you can't get our supplements, check your local supplement shop. So KSM 66 and N-acetylcysteine, you can typically find it in capsules. Just check your local supplement store. Make sure you're getting a reputable third-party tested brand, and start there. The gum is definitely a little bit better for sure, but don't discredit trying to use some capsules. I've been cooking a lot lately. That's fantastic. Yeah, when people quit substances, a lot of times you'll find pleasure in doing other things, right? I find pleasure in cleaning. I find pleasure in cooking. Before doing this live, I was downstairs putting my house back together after my 2-year-old son destroyed it all weekend. And it was enjoyable. I put on some EDM music, some chill EDM music, Ibiza Summer House 2025, chillax music. I was just cleaning. It was enjoyable. And then I decided, I don't know, because I'm a psychopath, I need something a little more stimulating. So I decided to come on here and do a live at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. God knows why. Probably because I'm addicted to this stuff. Who knows? Um, all right. I had a comment that sort of blew up on your interview with Dr. Anna Lemke, and I still reply to people who hear my testimony of quitting by the help of your videos. I love getting to help others through it. Yeah, it's an adrenaline rush. It's a dopamine rush. Helping people is a very, very powerful thing. That is one thing that I like about community when it comes to addiction recovery. It can have a very powerful community, although if you're not in the right community, it can have some very strong negatives too, which I won't go into the details of that unless someone wants me to. Um, yeah, the fact you can get weed online without ID is crazy, Caleb. But this is the world we live in. Like, my answer is at the end of the day, who cares? Could I go order weed right now online and smoke it? Yeah. Do I want to? No. So I don't care. Whatever. Like, look, here's the reality of society, right? Everyone's always trying to sell you something. And in life, you're either going to be a consumer or you're going to be a producer. I made the decision a long time ago to stop being a consumer, and I decided I wanted to produce. You're either going to be influenced or you're going to be an influencer. That's how life goes. You're either going to influence people or you're going to constantly be under the influence of others. And I'm not saying I'm not open to influence. I have coaches, I have business mentors, I have people that I work with where I welcome the influence, but I'm very guarded on what's going to influence me and what it is I'm going to consume. I'm very, very protective of that. How I spend my time, who I give my energy to, where I give my thoughts to. Sobriety taught me that to be. I'm very, very selfish with that, as should all of you. Right, your time and your attention is some of the most valuable stuff you own. And if you're giving it to the wrong place, you're going to get taken advantage of, and you're going to get screwed. And I learned that throughout substance use, and I solidified that in my sobriety. So, hopefully that helps. I make cookies and they come out awesome. Great. Um, okay, so let's see here. Yeah, it was a great interview with Dr. Yosef. I loved that interview. We just did an incredible video that we released on cannabis-induced psychosis. I hope to do many more with Dr. Yosef. I know he's having me on his channel. I think we're filming May 17th. And then we're going to drop a collaboration on his channel where I'm going to talk a little bit more about my story and what it is I do with people. 63, smoking on and off for 49 years, threw everything in the dumpster, never too late. That's damn right. It's never too late, Linda Clark. That's damn right. So many people, I'll have kids who are 19 that reach out to me and they'll say it's too late. I'm too far gone. And I'm like, what that's never the case. That's never the case. That's only the case if you tell yourself that's the case, right? I deal with this all the time when I'm working with people, but I am people. I was people, okay? People come to me, they're like, "Isn't my brain screwed? There's probably no hope for me." And I'm like, "Listen, would you rather be right or would you rather get better? Like, what do you want to do? Because if we can cut that talk and that doubt, then we can actually work on getting better. But if we're going to sit here and we're going to debate whether or not you're too far gone and you're screwed, then we're not going to get anywhere. So what do you want to do? Do you want to get better or do you want to be right? And make a decision and then we can move forward with it. Right. So Linda, I love that you dropped that comment because it's so true. And Linda, there's so many people that are, I'll say over the age of 40 that think there's no hope. And there's so much hope. There's so much hope. It's unbelievable. It's all in the mindset though. The mind is a very, very powerful thing. Okay, let's see here. Um, my biggest struggle is always, do I quit weed first, then vaping, or the other way around? Personally, I typically usually have people quit cannabis first and then nicotine, but it really depends on the individual. But usually, I go cannabis first, then nicotine. I find when we get rid of cannabis, it's much easier to start changing other behaviors. But I've had people who do it the other way around too. I've had people do both at once. It just depends. Yeah, rave music, EDM music to clean. I do the same thing. Weed was the last one to go. Harold, 29 days. Congratulations. I've quit 3 separate times for over a year, and I always end up going back. Why do you go back? Right? Why do you always go back? That's my question. So you quit for a year, you quit for 2 years, and then I went back. Why? Why did you choose to go back? It didn't happen spontaneously. What are the reasons, and how can we adjust going forward, assuming you don't want to go back? Yeah, cannabis-induced psychosis is a horrible thing. Um, flew on. I quit for a month and I smoke every couple days again. Controlled though. Yeah, moderation is very attainable for a lot of people. Um, A lot of people don't think I support moderation. I very much do support moderation. Moderation isn't something I choose to do, but for some people that will be a desired outcome, and I'm happy to support someone who wants that outcome. Just wasn't an outcome that I desired. That's all. Um, Dizziness and anxiety had to stop. Yeah, that dizziness and a lot of that anxiety that comes from cannabis can be early signs of cannabis induced psychosis. Anxiety, paranoia, these are early symptoms of that might predispose you to a psychotic episode. So we want to be really careful with that stuff. 7 days clean, my rebound insomnia is insane. How long should I expect this to last? Xavier, that's really the insomnia is brutal. I Xavier, I think there's oh my god, insomnia is such a rabbit hole. So the first thing we have to ask is it just withdrawals, or do you have some other underlying health condition? Do you have chronic pain that's keeping you up? Do you have insomnia that's keeping you up? Do you have PTSD related dreams that's keeping you up? Like, why do you have insomnia? And if it's none of that other stuff, okay, it's just the withdrawals. And for me, I had to exhaust myself. I had to stay away from caffeine. I had to physically exhaust myself every day. And even then it didn't always work. You're 7 days in though. I would tell you you're like in the peak of quitting. I think for most people after 2 weeks it becomes fairly tolerable, certainly within four. But you do have to be careful with insomnia because if you're not getting any sleep, again, you're predisposing yourself to some serious health complications. So we just have to be careful. And sometimes you just really have to go through it. Like it sucks, but like you just have to go through it. And what do? You get support and you talk to people and you just push and push and push and push as long as you can do that safely. So yeah, it's maddening. It's maddening. Um, yeah, and that's, dingleberry, you nailed it. Like, I literally just had to push it until my body forced myself into a state of sleep. Just the other day that happened to me. I'm sober as can be. I was working a lot. We launched our one-on-one AEP coaching program, and that's been, like, just months of hard work and planning. And the other day, I literally I got a photo of it. My wife has a photo of me. I'm on my phone like this, responding to a text. I'm like just staring at my phone, still holding it, sleeping. Your body will eventually force you to sleep. And if it doesn't, then maybe we got to seek some medical care. But seeking medical care is tricky because they're like, oh, we'll give you Ambien, we'll give you Xanax. And then it just leads down another mess of a rabbit hole. Anyways, um, things are going good. And then I think, how come I can't have something? Everyone else gets to have something. And then I fall back into the trap. Everyone does have something, I don't know, but what is your something, right? Like my something's YouTube, right? Like that's my something. Like I get to come up here and do live calls and edit videos, and it's extremely rewarding to me. So I agree with you. Everyone has something, but like your something doesn't have to be weed. It doesn't have to be a substance. It can be something else. Maybe you just haven't found what that something is. Maybe you have to keep looking, right? It took me years to figure out what my something was. Um, and look, I'm not even against it being a substance, right? Like someone's something might be a nicotine pouch. It might be a hit of cannabis. It might be a drink of alcohol. Controlled moderate use, I'm not against that. If it's not impacting a person's quality of life and they feel it's enhancing their quality of life, I'm not going to argue that with a person. It's not my place to. So, yeah, but so many times when we say something, we default to something being a substance because that's how we've been wired as a society, right? Have wine after work, have a drink of alcohol after work, smoke weed to chill out, go spend all your money on the weekend when you're bored, have some cake to celebrate eating healthy. Like society wires us to think in terms of like substances and destructive behaviors. Something doesn't have to be that, right? So just keep that in mind, okay? Um, I quit a year ago, 15 years, all day, every day, 10 to 20 joints a day. My body started rejecting it. Bad chest pains, anxiety, running 10 to 13 miles now every day, and I've lost over 60 pounds. Anything is possible. That's damn straight you did. I love it. I love it. Um, Weed is the only thing that makes me feel real. When I'm not with it, I feel depersonalization. Yeah, but is that because of the weed? You know what I'm saying? Like, um, I feel lazy and depersonalized. Yeah, you don't have the drug that you've been sustaining on. Of course, you feel withdrawal. So I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on with you. But also, Caleb, I'd say like this could go into a much deeper conversation about like a sense of purpose. And I think it's very hard to find that in substance use because substances turn drug use into your purpose. And I think for most people that eventually turns up dry, right? And you see a lot of people who develop depersonalization while using substances. So I don't know. I don't think you're lazy and depersonalized. I think that's what the drug wants you to believe about yourself. I don't think that's true of you. I think you're better than that. I just think you fail to see that in yourself. And that makes me sad. And I hope I can help you one day. I hope you can help yourself one day. Right. I will not fall back into this trap because I'm aware of it. Damn straight. Having proper expectations is a big thing. That's what I do with a lot. It's funny. People are like, "What do you do in your coaching?" And what do you do with people? What do? We work on the mindset. We set proper expectations. We focus on lifestyle modification. We provide accountability and support. That's it. This isn't rocket science. There's nothing complicated about this. And so many times people and I again, I'm people, make quitting substances way more complex than it has to be. And that it doesn't have to be that way. We overcomplicate it and we don't look at like the rudimentary basics of quitting a drug, which is like stop using the drug. We we get so distorted by focusing on so many other things and so many other thoughts that we lose sight of the thing that we're actually supposed to be doing, which is just like focusing on quitting, which usually with a little bit of accountability, support, and mindset shift, most people are capable of attaining it. Maybe you need a medical detox, but that's no big deal, right? Okay, so you do a medical detox for a few days a week, and then you're right where anyone else is quitting. So, okay. What are you supposed to do after you get psychosis? Chris, it's a very hard thing. Um, I would advise never consuming again. That's one thing. I would advise quitting. That would be tip number one. If you're in an active state of psychosis, chances are you need some psychiatric medication to snap you out of it. Not always. I didn't when I had psychosis. I snapped out of it on my own. But yeah, that's like I'm not sure what you're asking me, but my answer is after you get psychosis, you should quit and you should get support and you should get talk therapy, and that's what you should do. Weed helps my alcohol and hangovers. I don't drink anymore. I Weed used to help my alcohol hangovers too, right? I'm gonna guess you're in your teens or your 20s, just based on that content. I felt the same way. I thought weed was like a miracle cure for hangovers. Um, Sadly, I I really was undervaluing my time in my teens and my 20s. And I can tell you now, being 36, that that time that you're spending hungover and high is a lot more valuable than you realize. And I hope one day you realize that, Matt, and I hope you realize it sooner than later. Time is the most valuable thing you have. Time is the most valuable thing you can give a person, and I hope you realize that one day. Um, I had fun. I had times when I had fun, but I don't know. Your values and the things that you care about in life are going to change, and I just hope you don't make a decision that's going to screw that up for you later on. That's all I can say. Catching up on sleep. Yep, yep, yep. When I was smoking, I used to have this feeling that I was being watched. That's paranoia. That's an early symptom of psychosis. Um, I got wasted on 4 diet sodas at Wine Co. the other day. How do you not transfer into ice cream and junk food? So you're asking me what you're essentially asking me is how do you not trade one addiction or one substance for another? And really you do that by filling in other healthy habits. You set up other healthy cues and you develop other healthy habits, and then you wire your brain to go pursue those things, right? I recently put myself on a weight loss program. I did the whole 30. I know how to lose weight, but I needed a program. I just needed to be told what to do. And I lost 20 pounds. And how did I not transfer to something else? I just didn't eat something else, right? I had a very strict set of foods that I was to eat, and I didn't deviate from those foods. And it's like, yeah, that's hard, but like it really wasn't that hard because it was no different for me changing my diet than it was quitting weed and not drinking more alcohol, quitting weed and not watching more porn. When you learn it once, you can apply it to many different aspects of life. But like there's not like a magic answer. Like you can change your routines, you can limit your access to that stuff, like pretty basic things that you probably are aware of. But otherwise, it's like literally just not eating junk food and eating an apple instead, And you do that enough times over and over and over again, and eventually your brain is going to get the hint that it's not having ice cream, that it's going to have an apple. Like, you control your brain doesn't control you. Okay. And it's your job to put the proper inputs into your brain. Um, that's on you. So that's all I could say if I'm going to be like really blunt with you and not like BS you. Um, um, yeah, I'm trying to capture the nostalgic, high school moments and stuff like that. Um, yeah, Sobel, I mean, you can't, right? And you shouldn't want to. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, like, yes, high school was fun, college was fun. Yes, are there times where I'd like to relive those moments? Yeah, there definitely are. I had a great time, right? But like, also, like, you wanna at some point, you should want to grow up, and, like, your values and the things you cherish in life should change. That's part of maturing. So, I think instead of trying to capture something that used to exist, you should be focused on creating a future that you want to exist. Um don't get tied up in chasing the past. I see this all the time in like 12-step groups and AA groups and things like that. People talk about the past and they ruminate on the past and they miss this incredible opportunity to build a future for themselves. Um, right? Like I want to create new memories. I want to create new things. I want to continue to mature and develop and become smarter and wiser. Maybe you don't value those things the same way I do. It took me a while to value those things, but that's what I would say to you. Like I can relate to you because I do have moments where I'm like, damn, I wish I was in college again, stoned on the couch, sitting next to that cute girl, watching horror movies on a cold fall night, you know. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't though. Like I don't want that anymore. Like I want a family. I want my wife. I want more kids. I want to travel the world. Like I got bigger and better things that I'm up to now. Um, but it's my responsibility to create those bigger and better things. They don't just happen as easily as they once did in school because growing up and maturing is hard. Um, I'm scared of the relapse. I was there for Xanax and alcohol addiction. Do you have any tips to stay sober? Yes, so I was saying about rehab earlier, right? Like you shouldn't leave rehab being scared to relapse, but so many rehabs tell you relapse is part of the protocol. I mean, honestly, like, you're talking Xanax, alcohol, like, my honest advice, like, this is I don't wanna, like, just give you blanket advice, um, because that could be dangerous. Like, I have a program, we have a coaching program. Even if you've been to rehab, I promise it's good. There's a link in the video description to it. There's an application process, there's a wait list process. Right now, there's a wait list because we just enrolled new people in the program, but check that out. Like if you're really that nervous, check that out. And like, why are you scared to relapse? That would be my other thing. Like you are not going to spontaneously combust and relapse. This is a problem with so many rehabs. They drill it into a person's head that they're an addict, that they have no impulse control, that they have no rational decision making, and that one day they might spontaneously combust into using drugs again. Don't make that choice to use drugs again, and you don't have to worry about this. I know it's not that easy, but like it is. It is that easy. Like, it is that easy. Now, you might have cravings, you might have other things, you might have other stuff going on in your life that complicates that. But, like, this is my beef with rehabs. Um, right? The goal of rehab is to should be to break addiction and have you become recovered, not spending the rest of your life in recovery, living in fear that you're going to spontaneously combust into randomized substance use. That doesn't happen. Okay. It's a choice that you consciously make. And I'm not telling you that to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm telling you that to empower you because you deserve to know that. Did they tell you at rehab the number one way people quit substances is on their own? They wake up one day and they just stop. They get no support, no help, no guidance. They just stop. That's the number one way people quit. Rehabs and facilities don't tell you this because it doesn't generate them reoccurring revenue. Okay. If you look at the business model for a rehab, it relies heavily on reoccurring revenue, okay? And it's just it pisses me off so much I'm not going to talk about it on a live. I'm fine with the medical detox. I'm fine with that. But the idea that you need to be rehabilitated the rest of your life for a choice that you're consciously capable of making is just it's so upsetting to me because it's taking advantage of a person who's in a vulnerable situation. And a lot of rehabs, what they do is they make you put faith in the rehab and they don't reinstill faith in the individual themselves. And this is a major problem. This is why I developed my own programs. This is why I turned this into a business. Um, because I know I've been stuck in this place before. I was once there. I was once there. I got better. I'm so scared I'm gonna fuck it all up. How don't I? And now you hear me cursing a little bit. I actually do curse. A lot of people don't know that. It's only when I get really heated about something though. And I'm gonna forego this topic right now before I get myself in trouble. Um, I have a heavy hitter with this one. Vaping was a crutch for quitting everything else. It's gotten to a point where I'm going to the hospital for respiratory issues. I don't know what to do. Connor, immediate advice. Fine. Switch to nicotine pouches. Done. Start right there. Switch to nicotine pouches, switch to nicotine gum, switch to a nicotine patch. Don't even stress over the rest right now. Okay. Just switch. Switch your modality and nicotine. I'm not even going to get into vaping being a crutch for other substances. And that's fine if it was. Like I have nothing against that. A lot of times nicotine is part of someone's recovery from other substances. This is not uncommon. But like right now, keep it simple, man. Just like switch. Nicotine pouch, nicotine patch, nicotine gum. Let's get the health stuff under control and then let's worry about the rest, Connor. Um okay. 55 days now since I quit marijuana and alcohol. Boom, Tommy Tiger. Look at that. 55 days. Slam dunk. Um like you were saying, weed seems to be the root of so many problems. Yeah, a lot of my problems went away when I quit weed. Weed and some of these softer drugs are some of the most insidious substances, right? Because you can operate like a relatively normal life while high on cannabis and using nicotine all day and watching porn, right? Like it's not like heroin where your life might come crashing down in front of you. I describe it like this: it's like having a beautiful home and on the outside everything looks well manicured, but on the inside that house is rotting away. And that's what cannabis addiction was for me. Like on the outside I looked fine, like I mean until I got psychosis and CHS. Then until I had that steel gray skin complexion that develops with cannabis use, until I started to really look weathered and aged and steel gray in my complexion, then it was obvious that I had a problem. But that took years, and up until I got to that point, like I said, I had what appeared to be a beautiful home, but it was decay. It was mold and decay on the inside of that home, and that does make it very, very insidious, because it eventually will spread to the outside. It eventually will. Um, uh why don't you admit there's chemicals? Oh, this is Jack, chemicals and government weed. I know who this is. Your username is always changing, Jack. You're my number one supporter on this channel, aren't you? Um, it's very obvious though when you pop into my comments. Uh, I do admit that there's chemicals in it. There's pesticides in cannabis. There's all types of things in it now. You got sprayed packs and all that stuff. But that doesn't take away from the fact that regular high potency clean THC cannabis can still cause a multitude of problems for people. When you press me to say that why don't I admit that there's other chemicals causing problems, what you're trying to get me to say is what you're trying to get me to say is that cannabis is healthy for a person and it's the chemicals making it bad. The chemicals are adding insult to injury. Okay. And I'm fine with saying that. But that doesn't negate the fact that high concentration THC also causes lots of problems in and of itself. So that would be my answer to you. Okay, let's see here. Urge surfing, delay, distract, deep breathing, decastrophe. I can't pronounce that word. Decast. It's a catastrophe. Castaphorize, I guess. Yes, urge surfing is a great thing. Great technique. I love that technique. I'm a fan. Um, 29, feeling stuck in my career, wanting to finish my degree, then do my apprenticeship, wanting my energy to go back to normal. Jaden, you can't rush it. That's the problem. Here's a big thing that a lot of people do. They go to quit cannabis. They try and take on the world and change a million things at once. And that's not how this works. Jaden, you got to focus on 1% improvement each day. Um, life is not about one big win or one big success. It's a series of small successes stacked up over a prolonged period of time that will eventually get you to your goal. Okay. That's what sobriety is for people. Small successes stacked up over a period of time with volume and repetition that are going to get you to that goal. Okay. So what you're going to inadvertently wind up doing, Jaden, is you're going to overwhelm yourself by trying to take all this on at once. When right now you should have one focus. If you're watching my channel, that's quitting the substance. Okay, let's start there. Let's focus on things that we can do to promote the goals that you're looking to accomplish, and let's take it step by step. Um, in order to accomplish something big, you have to break down that something big into smaller pieces, bite-sized pieces. And right now you're trying to swallow the banana whole, okay? And you're going to choke if you do that. So that's what I would tell you. Your energy will eventually come back, but you can't go into this with false expectations that it's going to come back tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to be very disappointed, Jaden, and you're then going to choose to going back to using the substance. And it will be a rational choice on your part, but it doesn't necessarily make it the right choice. Okay. So yes, I get it. I get it. Should I do shrooms? I don't know. It's up to you. Okay, let's see here. Have an apple with a little bit of peanut butter. Delicious snack. I couldn't agree more with that. Beta alanine. Yes, I know you're upset about the beta alanine comment from 5 years ago. I know you're very upset about it. Um, okay, let's see here. Benefits of nicotine. So this is an interesting conversation. There are benefits of nicotine, and I've used nicotine, even in some cases, to taper people off of cannabis. But here's the thing about nicotine when people talk about the benefits of it. Any drug that you consume is going to have any drug that has a benefit also has a negative, right? And a lot of people who use nicotine largely use it to an extent that it's going to create more negatives than benefits. Very few people use nicotine in a moderate amount to receive the neurocognitive benefits. You're talking what, zero point 0.5 milligrams of nicotine to get that neurocognitive benefit from it. So I think there's that. And then just because something has benefits doesn't mean that it doesn't have harms. This is true of anything that works. Anything that works is going to have positives and negatives to it. This is life. Most drugs, nicotine and cannabis included, have a biphasic chart. At the right dose, there might be benefit. At too low of a dose, you might get nothing. Too high of a dose, you're going to have the opposite effect. Someone uses cannabis for nausea, it helps them initially. Then they go overboard because their tolerance went up. And now the cannabis is making them nauseous and making them sick. This is true of any substance. Okay, let's see here. All right. If this theory of small successes is true, why is it that 3 years in my life still feels stuck? Asks Mike. Mike, I don't know. I would flip that question on you and say, why did you stick with it for 3 years if that's been the case? Um, I don't have an answer for you, but that would be my question. Why did you stick with it for 3 years? Why have you gotten this far? That would be my question. Yes. Where is Jack? I have to block Jack from our conversation. Um, Jack is actually the only person that I have had to ever block from my channel. Um, Believe it or not, he has accomplished that. Um, and he should be proud of his accomplishment. Takes a lot of commitment to get blocked from my channel. Years of commitment, which he has successfully done. I don't know how many Google accounts this guy has made. Has to be in the thousands now. He actually emailed me once telling me, he was like, I'm so sick of wasting my effing time on your channel. It disgusts me, blah, 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 blah. It was a wild, it was just so unhinged. Okay. Weed quit date 5 to 6 weeks clean. So you're clean. You were never dirty. Come on, you were never dirty. But I know what you're saying. I'm having a crazy number of insights over the last few weeks. Seems like my brain goes into overdrive. Yeah, when it builds its own endocannabinoids. I say this all the time. This is one of the most beautiful things about addiction recovery. I think you come back stronger than the person that you were before using drugs. And I'm not encouraging people to use drugs to accomplish this, but I really believe that. And I'll explain why I think that happens. I didn't use drugs and I was person A. Then I used drugs and I was person B. And then I quit drugs and I was person C. And then I remained quit on drugs and I was person D. Person D is very similar to person A. I reclaimed back those things. But in my transition from using drugs to not using drugs, I learned a lot of things and I developed a lot of character traits that person A didn't have. I intentionally put myself through a really hard thing and I learned some stuff along the way. And luckily, I didn't die in the process. And that in turn made me stronger. It made me smarter. It made me faster. It made me better. And it helped me redefine traits. You see this all the time in people who struggle with substance use and then quit. They often do come back bigger, better, faster, stronger. And a lot of that is because of the experience that they had getting sober. It was a challenging experience. It was hard, and in doing things that are hard, we either crumble or we build a stronger version of ourselves. So yes, I'm all on board with that rebound. Um, okay, let's see here. What else do we got here? Yeah, I used to smoke cigarettes. Yeah, I quit a long time ago. Okay, let's see here. Um, all right, let's see here. All right, let's see. I have nothing against Jack, believe it or not, even though he's been a hater for a long time. I've invited him on my channel to debate me before. And I don't remember why that didn't happen. I'd invite anyone to come on to debate me because what I say isn't really debatable. You can't really debate um, someone's using a drug, it's decreasing their quality of life. And I'm trying to help them improve their quality of life. That's not you're like debating someone's opinion. It's not really like a debatable thing. How do I deal with relapse in a healthy way? Awesome. So the first thing you can do is you can acknowledge that relapse doesn't exist. Start dealing with relapse by acknowledging that you made a choice to go use the substance again. And once we position ourselves from that framework, we're putting ourselves in a place of choice, power, and control. And that's going to be one of the best things you can do to prevent future relapse. Now, how else do you deal with relapse? Um, you get back on the horse. You get back to doing what you were doing. You don't get tied up in the regret and this and that. Look, for most people, they'll quit for a period of time and they might spontaneously choose to go back to going to use the drug. I'm being sarcastic. They might relapse. They choose to go back to using the drug. Okay. And people will freak out. They'll be like, I relapsed. I was a year sober and I relapsed. I had a drink. I smoked a joint. What do I do? And I'm always like, okay, what changed? Like, did you lose your marriage? Did you lose your career over it? Did your health implode? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so are you making this a bigger deal than it needs to be? Like, what's the problem? Just like, don't smoke again next week. That's it. That's how you deal with it. Like, assess the actual outcomes of the relapse, the choice to use the drug again. What are those outcomes? Was it anything majorly detrimental? Probably not. If you did it once or twice. Now, if you do it again and again and again over a prolonged period of time, maybe it will become detrimental. But like, probably nothing happened. You're probably making a bigger deal of it than you need to, right? Like we do this all the time in our minds. It's a mind game. It's a mindset, right? Like if I were to go smoke weed like tomorrow, I I probably wouldn't care. Like to be honest, like I wouldn't do that just because I have no desire to. It's not even that I care to be sober. I don't have a desire to do that. But like I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be on here like I relapsed. What should I do? I just wouldn't smoke again. That's all. If I didn't enjoy it, I just wouldn't do it again. That's all. And I'd acknowledge that like nothing bad probably happened. So okay, let's see here. Okay. Um yeah, drugs cause major anxiety disorders for people. Yeah, I should make a video on that. I'm surprised I didn't actually. You're right. I never have made a video on that. Yeah, they mess with your nervous system. 100%. Stimulants, cannabis, alcohol, nicotine, it all messes with your nervous system. I think anyone who's experienced drug addiction has a dysregulated nervous system, right? That's something that I'm constantly trying to heal. Now I'm feeling much better, but damn, that took a long time. I had so many problems with my nervous system, it wasn't even funny. Um, yeah, I have nothing for love but Jack, but He's too disruptive on my channel, and especially in a live call. I'm 53. I quit almost 2 months ago, and I'm not going back. Congratulations. I love to hear it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Why aren't you ever going back? What made that decision final for you? Okay, let's see here. Um, all right. All right, guys. I actually have to go to bed. I just realized it's 11:52. We got a lot to do tomorrow. So, if you enjoyed today's conversation or you feel you need help, there's a link in the video description. It's for our one-on-one addiction exit protocol. I want you guys to check that out if you really need help, and if not, continue to enjoy the channel. And a quick shout out, guys, right here, real fast. One of our channel sponsors. If you are quitting cannabis, we have our highly sensitive THC 3-level test kit from Exploro. They are a channel sponsor of ours. And I encourage people, if you're quitting cannabis, track your detox. It will help you stay accountable to your quit, and you can actually monitor your progress while you're quitting cannabis, which is a pretty great thing. You can find this on Amazon. It's the Exploro 3-level THC urine test kit. It helps with accountability. It helps you understand some of the symptoms you're going through. And it's always appreciative if you guys show our channel sponsors love, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have this channel and I wouldn't be able to produce this content like I do today, because they're a big part of our channel, helping our finances and keeping this thing running. So of course, guys, I'll keep the lives coming. I have a lot of fun doing this. We might make it a regular thing, maybe Sunday nights or something like that. Congratulations to all you guys. Keep at it. You're kicking ass. Keep doing it.